Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of November 28th through December 4th of 2022. All right, so quite a busy week astrologically. The most important thing is that we are integrating the new moon energy from last week. Last Wednesday we had a new moon, and so this week is the first challenges of the lunar cycle, making it good to challenge ourselves and carry that energy forward. Now in terms of the aspects, we do have Mars trining Saturn, so we have the assertive Mars in good harmony to responsible Saturn right here at the very beginning of the week, Monday, even into Tuesday and Wednesday. So it could be a quite productive week, or early on especially, maybe just feeling a little bit of that patience and perseverance that type of aspect usually brings. The actual first quarter will be around Wednesday time period. It is that middle part of the week where we do have quite a few of these aspects, but it is quite straightforward, and that's really just Mercury and Venus. Okay, Mercury, the planet of our minds and communications, and Venus, the planet of our values and our relationships. They're going to be entering into a fucus right at the beginning of the week, and this is all about getting more in touch with that deeper world, valuing it with Venus, and thinking and communicating in this deeper way with Mercury. But these planets in that position are going to be opposing up to Mars, who is retrograde, reminding us that while it is good to dive deep and see the deeper world, to also stay nice and grounded and take things one step at a time. That configuration is going to be in good harmony to that Saturn, so again, some of that responsible energy. And these two planets will be squaring Neptune this week, so there could be a little bit of a challenge with these elements of Mercury and Venus, to be receptive, to find healthy ways of finding peace, to practice healthy spirituality, compassion, receptivity, acceptance, willing to go with the flow, perhaps wanting to escape or get into more of the imbalanced energies with that, but channeling it constructively can be fantastic. And that Neptune will be going station direct this week around Saturday, so there is a shift slowly starting this week in terms of integrating more of that spiritual energy. All right, so quite a bit to talk about. Let's go and break all this down here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here is the sky for this week. We're going to look at this for each day of the week, starting first with Monday, November 28th. And as you can see here, we are using the visible sky on this channel, which is very different from mainstream astrology. Essentially, we're using the visible sky called true sidereal, and for this reason, the signs do change from mainstream. And so if you are new, definitely check out that link down below for more information. All right, so let's take a look at what we have going on this week. Again, we are just coming off of a new moon still. It is still the early phase of the lunar cycle, but certainly coming to our first challenges of this cycle this week, especially around the Wednesday time when we do enter into that first quarter moon, where the sun and moon are in that square. So squares are all about building. They're all about integration, taking action, and moving energy forward. And in this case, if there's been any new perspectives you've had, or quite literally new things you've started to implement into your life since about midweek last week, this is a fantastic week for carrying those forward and challenging ourselves to do so. Now, there's been a lot of this transition into the deeper energies last week, and that is continuing this week with now Mercury and Venus right off the bat going into the deeper constellation of a fucus. So we've already had that shift into Scorpio last week, and that's continuing, which is being aware of the deeper world, shining that light, particularly with the sun. So great for inner depth, transformation, and healing and deeper energy, but also in the outer world through research and uncovering hidden stuff. It's really the time of the year for this. But Mercury and Venus going into a fucus is particularly on the healing side of things, that it could be enjoyable now moving forward to do healing, whether it's physical, spiritual, emotional, mental, whatever it might be, and to connect in that way in our relationships, to connect essentially on that deeper level, but perhaps as a result, some of that healing taking place. And with Mercury, it's just that our minds and our communications are certainly there in the underworld, and so anything we could be learning, studying, gaining information about, that as a result could be healing, is great. So this includes, of course, psychology, shadow work, spirituality, alchemy, anything that is, again, about uncovering the deeper world. And so this is certainly continuing and perhaps even getting stronger now as we do have these planets getting closer to the center of the Milky Way, which is found at about this blue line here. And as they get closer to that, it becomes a very transformative part of the sky. And then as they do pass over that, as we do have, going into this, time of the year, into December, usually quite transformative times. And again, really good for that deeper or spiritual type of energy there. All right, so that's the backdrop there. And Mars is still retrograde. And so in this case, it is good to still be taking things one step at a time. While it is a deeper world, those deeper planets will be opposite up to more grounded Mars at the moment. So with Mars and Taurus, it's been important for all of us collectively to stay grounded, take things one step at a time, stop to smell the roses, right? Anchoring one step at a time through life with whatever it is we're taking action towards. And so this is the part of the sky that is a reminder of this importance of balance, that in order to go into that deeper world and do these deeper things that a Scorpio and a Fucus are all about, we do have to be grounded in the physical world. We have to be grounded into nature. We have to be grounded in our self-value, self-worth, right? These inner resources. This is what facilitates the deeper energy. And of course, vice versa. But the deeper energy is the new energy here, so good to think about it that way, I think. All right, so that's the sort of overview of the week. And really, it looks like there's a lot of aspects going on here this week. There's really just a few because a lot of these are involving the Venus and Mercury conjunction. So because they're together, they're going to be forming the same aspects. And so it looks like a lot more, but it's really just one aspect whenever they form one because they are next to each other. But breaking it down each day of the week here, coming into the week, all day Monday and early Tuesday, the moon is going to be in more grounded Capricorn. And so it is a good time for thinking about our long-term achievements or accomplishments or things that we know will just take time. And the good news here is that this is being very supported by the fact that that fiery Mars is in good harmony to Saturn, the planet that rules Capricorn, the planet of perseverance, discipline, and responsibility. So it's usually quite easy to align our short-term goals with our long-term goals, desires with things we know will take time, and in this way it can be very productive times, and anything that's early part of the week that is on that level could be a great way of utilizing this particular trine and also the moon in Capricorn here. Now, as we do get to the later part of Tuesday, this is where we do come to some of these aspects with that Mercury and Venus I was talking about. And again, you can see it here. It's quite straightforward. It's that Mercury and Venus will be opposite that Mars and Taurus. So it's good for this pretty much this whole middle part of the week because Venus will be opposing around the Wednesday, Thursday time period. But essentially it's that, it's connecting to the deeper world, enjoying it, valuing it with Venus, thinking this way, learning about it with Mercury, and balancing that with the earth, with the nature, with the grounded. Now Mars can bring in some of that fire into the mix, so it could be good to find healthy ways of asserting ourselves, of taking initiative with these values, with these communications, with these thoughts, these things we're learning about perhaps with Mercury. So when it comes to those minds and it comes to our relational life, it is good to find some balance with that fiery side, with that assertive side, that independent side, which needs to be brought in, but of course with balance and harmony. Now that opposition is going to be in good harmony to that Saturn. Saturn is again in support to this part of the sky. And it's nothing major, but it's sextiles. Mercury and Venus sextile Saturn. So again, a little bit on the grounded side, a little bit easier for responsibilities, things that take time, things that require perseverance, right? This kind of energy. All right. And this middle part of the week is again where we are in that first quarter moon. Again, good to challenge ourselves, integrate things from that lunar cycle that started midweek last week. Now, as we do get into this late Tuesday into Wednesday time period, the moon will be in Aquarius, making this square. And so could be a good couple days there for our visionary side. What are our visions for the future, both for ourselves and the collective, and perhaps integrating some of that, because this is the square, right, where it is deeper and all that underworld is being illuminated right now and activated right now. This is very different from the aspiring side of things, right? Aquarius, our future visions. And so the question is how can we integrate those, that deeper world into these aspirations, into these future visions? And Aquarius can oftentimes be very collective, and that might be a good time for connecting with friends or doing things that involve a little more network circles, and bringing some of that depth into those. Again, particularly with Venus here in a fucus. Could be a good intention to set with this kind of square here. All right, and then as we do get to the Thursday time period and onwards, really for almost the rest of the week, the moon will be in Pisces. Okay, so it is adding to the watery energy. This is adding to the Scorpio and a fucus, which is already water. Now we have more water with Pisces, but this is a trinal energy. So it's really from about probably about Friday and onwards is where we're going to start to notice a little bit more of the wind in our sails in this cycle. Okay, whereas Tuesday, well, probably more Wednesday, coming into that clash, that first quarter, that challenging ourselves, but then out of that, a little bit more of the wind in our sails moving forward. And so in this case, it could be a very good later part of the week for receptivity, going a little more with the flow, maybe getting some rest, some inner time, right? It is good for some of that healthy spiritual energy, healthy presence, healthy acceptance in our life, that later part. But it might be challenging to do so. And the reason is that Mercury and Venus, that later part of the week, will be squaring up to Neptune, the planet of Pisces, the planet that rules Pisces, that rules receptivity and spirituality. So around the Thursday time, our minds might be a bit in the ethers, might be a bit in the clouds, might be wanting to escape. It is good to let the imagination and the mind wander a bit and perhaps see where it goes, but channeling it, right? Channeling it constructively is very important. Again, it is a square. So in this case, maybe gaining insights from our intuition, writing them down, maybe from our dreams and writing them down, or doing anything that's very practical in our day-to-day life that is grounding the spiritual energy or the unconscious energies of life into practical, tangible form. Okay, and then with those relationships, which will be mostly the case over the weekend, is practicing healthy receptivity in those. So intentional compassion, intentional acceptance, that kind of a thing can be fantastic. And again, just being mindful of perhaps the tendency to want to escape or go to any, into the clouds with some of this, and again, channeling it constructively and living a little presently. And again, with some of that acceptance consciously can be great. So that's going to be the weekend there, Saturday, Sunday, with the square up to Neptune. Okay, so that's the weekend mostly, is that receptive Pisces, and this is also Neptune, that planet of receptivity, going direct. And now we probably won't feel too much going on with this around what will be Saturday when Neptune goes direct, but over the coming days, especially over the coming weeks, we'll notice that things are starting to move forward here, that there is a theme shifting into integrating more spiritual energy into our life. These outer planets will go retrograde for about half the year. And so, for half the year, we do get a little bit of a pause or a little bit of a break, or we approach things a little differently with things like spirituality. But once the planet does go direct, like Neptune is doing, it becomes really about integrating it, implementing it in the physical world. And so for the next 6 months, it is fantastic to do this, setting, again, any intentions for bringing in spirituality, bringing in a little more peace, a little more receptivity in our lives. And if there is anything on that level you are expecting to shift, we could start to see that shift around the weekend, Saturday, and onwards, once Neptune slowly shifts direction and builds his momentum. Okay, and it's nice to see that the sun will be trining Chiron here, the healing comet, and it is that Ophiuchus energy, and it's nice to see a little bit of that trine. So we can see that even though there is a bit of that challenge with the Neptune, the watery energies, the spiritual energies, the escaping energies, this is where we get to the more supportive phase of the lunar cycle, a little more momentum, a little more wind in our sails, perhaps even because the moon's in Pisces to some degree, little bit easier to go with the flow and stuff than if it, versus some other time where maybe we had these squares and it was a more challenging phase of the lunar cycle. Okay, and then the weekends here around the what is this? Just late Sunday, basically, the moon will be shifting into Aries. Okay, and so that's setting the stage for early next week. But late Sunday, we might know some themes around taking initiative, and that gives us a little bit of a prelude into what next week, the early part of next week, will look like, which is, taking some initiative with things and cultivating some of that fiery energy a little bit. All right, everyone, so this is the week in a nutshell. Most important thing is that it is the integration of the lunar month of the first, tire meets the pavement and implementation of these new beginnings from mid last week. There's a lot of that deeper energy in Scorpio and Ophiuchus, and so it is good to illuminate the deeper world, but not only illuminate it, to also work with it. And again, healing is one of the great ways, whether it's intentional healing or just as a result of some of this energy. Balancing all that with the grounding energies of taking things slowly and being anchored in the natural world, and balancing some of that fire if there is some extremes with that, with the oppositions with Mars. Intentional assertiveness and intentional initiative with these things. Saturn is in good harmony this week. Saturn, the planet of patience, discipline, and responsibility, especially that early part of the week. And then the later part of the week, we do have some of these squares with Neptune, maybe a bit that tendency to want to escape or hide away, but finding constructive ways of doing that is great, and perhaps starting to implement and move forward some of that spiritual energy with the moon in Pisces and Neptune going direct. All right, so everyone have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click the like button if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're not yet signed up for MTZ Insiders, it is a free newsletter where you do get these videos released first before YouTube and extra content not normally released on YouTube. So do sign up down below for that if you haven't yet. But have a great week, everyone, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.